I've got a zinger to start.
Do you? I don't have headphones or anything. I don't need anything. Go ahead.
Look at this podcast! Welcome to the Morning Ramble. I'm Matt.
I was getting coffee. I'm Eric.
And I'm Tad.
We have a special guest.
And he's Tad.
Which
We've
you
got
just
Tad
said.
back because we're going to be talking about guns more today, and our resident expert on guns and potatoes is Tad.
Guns of potatoes.
But first, before we get into the gun thing, just wanted to throw this out there because Cody would be mad if we didn't.
Okay. One of our viewers. Faithful viewers.
So, Trump just shared a Nickelback meme.
Yes, he did.
And, I mean, it was pretty good.
It was an excellent meme.
I thought it was great. So, I don't know. Do you want to, like, cut the video, put that in, if you could even find it?
If I can find it and figure it out, which
I'll
I'm
just
pretty sure I
describe
can.
it in case you can't.
Okay.
So basically, it's just a look at this photograph thing, but it is the actual song, and it's a photograph of Biden with the whole...
Oh yeah, it was Biden with the Ukraine exec and
his son.
and all that golfing. And because he said that he never spoke to his son.
Yeah, that he was never involved in anything.
When I first saw that, it reminded me of, do you remember when we went on a trip, I think it was down to Hershey, if I'm not mistaken, and you talked about that meme, and I never heard of that meme before.
Oh yeah, and then I just showed you a bunch of different versions of it.
And it's like, look at this graph! And it's just like
It was just a
different
meme
math graphs.
montage.
And it was like a ton of them, and I remember I would watch them over and over again, just cracking up, so that's the first thing I thought of. But then they took it down on Twitter, I think.
Yes,
He didn't delete the tweet, though. It's still
it
up.
was
It just
removed
says-
on, it was copyrighted.
That's when I saw it.
And removed.
Great
Which
picture.
It's because Nickelback is communist.
is like, it's peak meme at this point.
Yeah.
That's great,
It's a great
that it was
meme.
removed. That's hilarious. Everything about this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Also, another quick update. This is technically Candidate Watch.
Technically, we haven't said candidate. I've been kind of waiting for the dust to settle.
Well,
we got some candidates that
The
left.
dust might be settling a little bit because a couple days ago, Bernie Sanders had a heart attack. He is fine. He is recovering. He wants to get back to work. But honestly,
I don't
for
think
people who are on the fence about his age, this is an ender.
It is.
Like, I think he's gonna be out of the race.
I don't
here
think he's
soon.
going to drop out. I
don't think he's gonna drop
I think he's
out.
going to go all the way to the primary. I
Oh,
don't
he
think he's gonna
probably
leave.
will.
But I think people will use that against him. Even though Biden, literally every room he sits in, he's just like, "Where am I again?" like literally, the guy doesn't like. I think he's older than Sanders, if I'm not mistaken. We all have
No, he's a year younger.
a year younger. And then
We
Trump.
looked this up on the podcast one day.
We did, and then Trump, I think, is a year younger than Biden, maybe 72, I think. Which I have to say, Trump looks the youngest out of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I'll give him
nice
that.
golden lush hair.
Golden lush hair, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, let's get
All right,
get into
so,
it.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit longer than normal, but you know, I'm glad because we're going to cut it up into some segments. And I thought we'd have a really good discussion. You probably saw some of our posts. We were looking for someone who's a little bit more pro-gun control, because if you didn't know from our Second Amendment podcast, or just Tad in general, Tad is not pro-gun control. Tad is... do you consider yourself a Democrat? Or
Yes.
You're registered a Democrat?
Yes.
But didn't you say independent, or...
No, just Democrat.
Just Democrat?
Yeah,
Okay.
Democrat.
He is the most pro-gun Democrat I've ever seen. So I'm going to try to play a little bit of devil's advocate. It's not just going to be a gun-tooting episode, even though we have several guns on the table. Or a couple. It's not several. And then hopefully we'll have a good discussion on, we're going to talk about current policies that are in play, basic gun basics we're going to go over first, just kind of how different guns work, because we saw, who was that senator? Just recently, she said an AK weighs 10 boxes, whatever that means. Did you see that, Matt?
Was it Jackson?
I forget her name. She was. They were talking about AK. No,
AR-15
AR-15.
mentions 10 boxes.
10
they would be
boxes.
moving, and they shoot 50 caliber bullets.
And they shoot 50 caliber, which, if
Yeah.
you don't know anything about guns, a 50 caliber bullet is like like as
Yeah.
big as like that.
She's a
mic
big
stand.
bitch.
But so I thought we'd go over some basics, and then I thought we would dive into the candidates' policies. And I actually went into the top 7 Democratic candidates, read their policies. I have some snidbits I'll show you.
Snidbits?
Snidbits. Actually, I use the
Snippets.
snipping tool, so it is.
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, that's how I edit. It's a secret. And I think that's it. We'll just jump right in.
Okay.
Let's jump right into it, guys. Okay, so first up, I actually started doing this small presentation back in August during our break. We had two of the biggest mass shootings in the last couple of years, wasn't it? I mean,
I don't know if it was the biggest.
I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's definitely the most
yeah.
politically impacting, I would say.
Yeah.
There was an El Paso shooting, and then I think was it the day after, or was it?
It was like a few hours.
Like little. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
A few
It
hours
was like
later.
a few hours of the next morning.
9 people were shot in Dayton.
Yep.
In a
bar. Or
in a
something.
bar.
Yeah.
And like the guy, and we're not going to go into these incidents like individually, but like like a lot of people, when this broke out in August, like online and in the political realm, everyone was talking about those shooters like political background, and to me, who cares? They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
So that sparked a big argument, and honestly, every time this happens, it sparks a big argument. So, a lot of the times, like politicians, actors, they'll start tweeting out common sense, and here's some tweets. Hillary Clinton, the House has sent common sense gun safety. Seth MacFarlane, people are blocking common sense gun legislation. Joe Biden, common sense, common sense,
Hang on a second.
common sense.
Can I just ask,
Yeah, what's up?
who is Tammy Duckworth?
I don't know. She's a senator.
Duckworth.
I don't know. I literally went on Twitter. Actually, you could tell by my screen captures. I typed in common sense in the search, and
And that's why they're black.
that's why they're black. Exactly.
Okay.
Because that's how much. And there was so much more than this. I literally just grabbed 7. Tom Steyer. He's actually one of the Democrats that are running for president, and he's going to be on the October 12th debate. So I didn't know that when I got that. So that was just coincidental. Julian Castro, obviously. So what is common sense? So I thought we would start from the base and work our way up. We're not going to be talking about the Second Amendment too much. If you want to know more about that, you can check out our December podcast where we broke that down for like 50 minutes, I think.
Yes, the video quality is low, but the intelligence is high.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Non-biased.
Unbiased. All right, so the 3 things that we dive into: common types of firearms, candidates' policies, and the current policies currently in play. Let's just go right in. So I did this off the top of my head. So basically there's 3 types of weapons, firearms, I guess you could say: rifles, shotguns, and handguns. And these are all the different types of action for each one.
I mean, you could probably say commercially available in
Commercially
front of that.
available. Well, actually, some of those are not commercially available.
Because firearms is...
Real-
that's a pretty broad
This is
term.
going to get very wordy, and I'm trying not to be
Yeah.
so wordy, but
Screw it, let's just
Chad, hop
go.
in.
All right, so for the rifles, we have bolt action, brake action, lever action, semi-automatic, and full auto.
And obviously, semi-auto is the one that everyone always
Is the-
brings
yeah,
up.
that's the
So
one.
semi-automatic,
Is
1
in
trigger pull, 1 round.
That can be said for all these weapons, though.
Pretty much, yeah. That's all the weapons. And then a lot of times when people say hunting rifles, that's when you get into like the bolt actions and the most common hunting rifle. Brake action is more common in shotguns and also handguns. And then lever action,
Like cowboy guns.
that
Yeah.
30-30,
Cool.
whatever.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. Red Dead.
And then full auto, obviously, something that is illegal unless you have a very...
Class 3 tax stamps.
What's that?
Tax stamps.
Yeah, you pay the ATF $200 a year, I believe it is.
And what's the ATF real quick? And we're going to go into them again.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
So they're the ones in the federal government who control the federal laws.
That is a
correct?
really strange group of things to group together.
Isn't it? Sounds like a party.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
They need to add an M in there for marijuana.
Or just D for drugs.
Or D for guns or drugs. You heard it here first. Shotguns, pretty much the same stuff. Pump action, actually,
Pump action
pump
is the
action
most-
can also be
most
on a
common.
rifle.
Yeah.
I didn't add that because my father actually has a pump action 270, it has a magazine, but that's actually how it loads. So, break action, but yeah, pump is the most, you know, common 5, I think it's like what, 5 shells.
It really depends on what you have.
Yeah, and when we're talking, you know, rounds, you know, that's like the full,
The cartridge.
the little cartridge, bullet, and all that stuff. Shells, if you don't know, shotguns, they come in almost like a plastic type of shell. The pin hits them, and then it could be like a bird shot, which is like multiple, like imagine like little BBs, or it could be slugs, which is like multiple, like imagine like musket balls.
Yes.
That's the best way I can
And
describe it.
buckshot.
Now, what's the difference between buck and bird? And I should know this because I actually shoot
Bigger
them.
balls.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
That's 100% the
The
truth.
bigger the balls, the less there are.
And then
This podcast is great so far.
This is excellent. This is handguns. Now, handguns are extremely tricky, which we're going to talk about carrying in a little bit. But I just want to talk about the actual guns themselves, which we have 2 here. So semi-automatic and revolver are probably the 2 most common, if not all, that dominate the commercial market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a break action handgun is going to be
I've
a
shot one.
longer handgun.
That like a Thompson Contender.
Well,
yeah.
I've told you before, I've shot a Judge, which is a 410, which is a common shotgun shell,
Right.
in a handgun, which is absurd and unnecessary. And then break action, just the barrel breaks open, 1 round or shell goes in, and then full auto, which, I mean, they're illegal.
Unless you have the proper license.
There you go, Tad.
But there's only
If you're a
few
fan
those.
of Grand Theft Auto, that would be called an Uzi.
Yes.
So yeah, those
That's
are,
why I know anything about guns.
Yeah, but just to be clear, like all these incidents, these mass shootings, the majority of incidences happen with handguns dominantly, and they're all semi-automatic, if not revolver. That is literally, I would say, almost like over 90% of instances. Wouldn't you think?
It's a massive percentage.
It's a massive percentage. So when we talk about assault rifles, or when politicians talk about those weapons, they're talking about semi-automatic, so not full auto. There's that. Yeah,
I can't think of any recent cases of a full
a full auto. So someone
rifle
with,
being used
because
in
the
a crime.
people that can afford those tax stamps are
Well, and then
law-abiding.
plus the weapon itself, like
Yeah.
a cheap one is $15,000 in
Yeah,
some cases.
who's gonna if
You-
they plan on doing something?
You're gonna go through all the legal, loopholes and
Yeah.
spend, a couple grand and then do something
do
stupid
that.
with
That's
it.
yeah. And plus and if someone who wants to do something that horrible probably can't even afford that.
No.
Meanwhile, a low-end semi-automatic handgun could go from what, like $200?
You can get them as
Ish.
cheap as, if it's used, you can get them under $100, depends on what it is.
Correct.
And then you can
Okay.
get over $1,000 to the more high-end guns.
Yeah.
So it really varies.
Yeah, it does. So the current the laws around firearms are probably the most complicated, I would say, in the country.
Yeah.
Can we think of anything more complicated than firearm laws? I don't even know. Like,
No.
it's really complicated because certain things are mandated by the state and certain things are mandated by the federal government, and then there's some things that the federal government doesn't touch because of the Second Amendment. So I outlined a couple ones here that just some basics, and I know it looks wordy. I don't even know if you can read it on the screen when I throw this picture up. But this is as short as I can make it. So the first one, so 18 to purchase shotguns, rifles, and ammunition, and then handguns you have to be 21 or older. Would we all say that's pretty much common sense or reasonable? I would say so. We'll get into in a little bit. Elizabeth Warren actually wants to bump all ammunition, firearms, and guns up to 21. That's something that she wants to do in her policy. Number 2, fugitives, people involuntarily committed to the mental institutions cannot purchase firearms. There was a lot of information on this.
Right.
I did not include it all because honestly it was confusing reading it.
Yeah. I looked into it very little. There's a lot there.
Yeah, because then there was stuff on domestic violence, and then there was stuff on misdemeanors, but over a certain time it's okay, and then depending on what the misdemeanor is, it's very confusing. I don't know, what do you guys think about fugitives or people like in those crimes not being able to purchase a
I mean, if you're a fugitive, technically you haven't been caught from.
Yeah, so you're working for felony.
felony.
For a felony.
So I typed that
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I'll fix it for the.
I mean, like if it's something like
Like-
assault or battery or something like that,
Mhm.
makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So violent crime.
If it's a violent crime, fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. For other felonies,
Like
doesn't make
marijuana
any
charges
sense.
where people
Yeah,
use
drug
their
charges, stuff like that. Especially if it's just using
Right.
or possession or something.
Yeah.
Then
But
distributing, I think, would be a little bit more complicated.
Distributing would be
depending on
more
what it is,
Typically
what was the
network,
amount.
you know, like an organized crime,
Right.
even
Yeah.
getting near that.
right.
Actually, I think the website.
Also,
is
something I
pretty
find
right.
weird, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with this necessarily, is the idea that it's like, hey, you're 21, now you can get drunk and buy guns.
Together.
That's too much for 1 year.
Yeah. Spread it out. 22, 24. One thing that, and I don't know if you hold the same opinion, this is just something without any research at all, just something that I just, what I think is that I feel like people committed of a felony should be able to purchase a firearm. They should have a pathway to do so.
You can get-
I don't
No,
feel
there
like
are
they-
pathways.
Yeah, you can get your
Yeah.
rights reinstated. It
Oh,
depends on
okay.
your crime and how much time has passed, and if you get the right lawyer, you can definitely
Yeah,
get your rights
okay.
reinstated.
you can get your.
I wasn't sure if it
get
was like a
everything
7-year
sealed.
period or
It
like,
depends.
it's probably very, yeah, I don't
There
know.
there is a time period in between, but then after that you pay a lawyer a certain amount.
Mhm.
They do the paperwork, and then most of the time you'll get
you get it back
everything
unless,
back.
yeah, okay.
Unless you're a monster.
And that's how I think.
And then on that same vein, then you won't have to, like when you're filling out job applications, if the thing comes up and it's like, oh, are you a felon or have you committed a felony in the past? You don't need to say you were
Right.
Okay.
at that point, because then your record would be
Expunged.
sealed. Yeah, expunged.
Okay.
That's a proper term.
Okay. So I said this before, so Second Amendment serves as a legal basis for the right of the people to keep and bear arms. So that's used by the federal government a lot, to not kind of step into certain parts, and that's where the state takes over. And that's why the state's basis of carrying and purchasing, it varies so much. Like for instance, that's why I actually put these here. So like for my handgun here, I have a Beretta. So this is a 20 round magazine for it, and this is a 15. Both of these are illegal in every state touching Pennsylvania. Am I correct on that? Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, New York, and New Jersey.
Yeah,
So I can't, if I'm carrying with one of these,
you're getting a nice fine and possibly jail time. And if you have hollow points in there, you'll be fined.
which I
as
normally
well.
do for self-defense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy
Yeah.
that it varies that much by state.
You don't get the good stuff in New Jersey.
That's right, PA's where it's at. So state and local governments regulate carrying laws. So the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, which Tad said, so they regulate the standards for licensing for gun vendors as well. And that's federal. I think. Yeah, that's federal for distributing and vendors and
Yep.
selling and stuff like that. So shotguns, rifles, machine guns, firearm mufflers, silencers are regulated by the National Firearms Act of 1934, and the purchase of semi-automatic weapons is legal in most states. Do you know what states offhand are not legal? So these would be semi-automatic rifles. So like that's like the AR-15, the AKs that you hear in the news.
I mean, I know in California you can still have an AR-15. There's a lot of laws around it.
you have to probably jump through a lot of
Yeah.
paperwork and stuff.
Like, I don't know
like
if you
that.
still have to have like a magazine welded
Mhm.
inside the gun still, but I know it was a thing for a while.
That's right. You did say that. I forgot.
Like,
and that's in
so-
New York too, right?
Probably.
So what
I know
that-
California is one of the worst states.
Yeah. So what's happened is before? Actually, you can explain it. What that is.
Yeah,
The
so like
welding.
in California, have your rifle to be compliant, it can't have over like a 10-round magazine. So, and a lot of things, you can't have a detachable magazine because it makes an assault rifle. So your magazine has to be welded more or less inside your gun or pinned so it cannot be removed. So you can't put 30-round or whatever.
You have to load it
inside
in individually.
Yeah, you have to take the rounds and stick them through the receiver
Mhm.
and down to the magazine.
I see.
Yeah, that's it.
Make it difficult. I
Yeah.
guess.
It's sort of like with hunting regulations and how many
Exactly.
rounds you can have
Right.
in there. Okay, that
Well, you
makes
can't
sense to
harm
me.
with an AR. No.
Certain states you can. You
Just
can hunt
wait.
pistols too in certain states.
That would be so impractical.
That would be so yeehaw.
There's a deer.
Well, see, a lot of people do like with their pistols for rabbit
Yeah.
hunting, get better with their guns.
That makes sense. Tell you what, hitting a rabbit with a pistol, that's tough because that's why I use shotguns, because the spread of the bird shot is so far, and then rabbit skin's so thin it doesn't take much.
I went through a small animal murdering just festival one time. Like, now that I think back on it, it was kind of disturbing how much wildlife I killed.
Well, it was.
Like,
Allegedly.
that probably wasn't good.
I was hunting rabbits the one time, and a rabbit came out of the bush. I was posted on the one side, so when they would run across, I would hit them as they go across the field. And one of them went straight at me and stopped, and it was just a reaction. I just pull up my 12 gauge and go, bam, and there was nothing.
Cotton balls.
There was nothing left. There was guts hanging off a tree. It disappeared. So there was no stew from that rabbit.
And I forgot I had buckshot.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
All right, so
We're gonna get a letter from PETA. Just
okay, PETA podcast. So a lot of people are saying we need background checks. That's like a big thing we hear, and I feel like a lot of times it's super misleading to people who don't know the background of firearms or purchasing or hunting or anything like that. There is background checks.
It's as easy as buying a toothbrush.
It's not. What was that one journalist? He went to go buy a firearm.
Oh, and he got denied.
And
There's
he actually got denied. He wanted to show you how easy it was. It's easy as buying a toothbrush, and he went and he actually couldn't
he
buy
had a
it.
domestic dispute on his record, and he got denied at the counter.
So it was kind of funny. But anyway, so background checks are required. I didn't know this, but Bradley Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993. So the check system is called the NICS, which, before we get into the candidate stuff, what I found crazy was certain candidates contradicted themselves on certain times, but all of them were just like, we need to run background checks by the NICS. And I'm like, that's already a thing. Like, that's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just kind of reinstating fact, and I think it's just for people like, oh yes, I agree.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't include on this because I didn't feel like typing it all out, but some states actually use that, and then they also use a local system.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
I
what
think Florida does something like that.
they do.
I think.
Which I agree with more because that's probably more finance system for the people in that state. So permits to purchase, only a dozen of the U.S. 50 states require purchasing permits for handguns. We are not one of them.
I know my buddy was in Illinois. He has to get a license to buy a handgun. Then go through the steps for the rest of it.
So to clarify that, in the state of Pennsylvania, we have permits for carrying concealed.
okay. So
Yeah,
run me through this because you've both gone through this before.
yeah.
I don't own a gun. So run me through it. The first time you are buying a handgun.
Well, I'll say mine since mine happened literally this year because I grew up with rifles, but really until I met you, I really didn't know much about handguns. It wasn't something in my purview.
You're welcome.
So literally, I walk. Tad brings me up to this one gun shop. I already have the gun in mind that I want. They pull it out. Say, "You want to check it out?" I'm not. I understand what it is, so I'm just like, okay.
That's definitely a gun.
That's a gun. Pop the magazine out, put it back in. Yep, okay, I'll take it. So there's two forms that I had to fill out. Which one? They were
It's a whole bunch of numbers. I can't.
basically, yeah.
Something. Whatever. It's
Yeah,
called.
so I filled out pretty much all basic information. Are you a felon? Address, name, and then they said if you give your social security number, it makes it easier for us. And I'm just like, I don't care. So I give them mine, which is. While I'm filling out that information, he takes it. I give him my license and all that information. I start filling out another one, and then where I was at, you could do it by phone, which I've seen. He went online and he ran it through the background check system, which
Goes right through Harrisburg.
Goes right through Harrisburg. Now, for my job, I've had federal background checks, so whatever. But filled that out. He took that. I think the second form was a purchasing form.
I believe
Just
so.
information that I am buying this handgun from this vendor.
Yeah, that stays in
And
his
that's
records.
that's for his record,
Yeah.
not for like the state
So
saying
like if
I own that
like
gun.
if
It's more for
if your gun gets stolen, you can go to his records and get the serial number if you didn't write it down, which you should.
I have the box.
So you
What if they steal the box too?
No, and I keep it in the box at all times. So and then I paid for it, and then I walked out, and that was it.
Okay, so you walked out with the gun the same day.
About 30 minutes.
I wouldn't even say it was that long.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Tuesday,
I didn't know
25
that.
minutes.
I thought that it was sort of like
Like
when you
waiting.
go to a job and you get a background check done. They have to send out paperwork. They have
I
to
know
get that
it's
sent back.
and the thing is, the more firearms you purchase, the faster it is. If I go
'Cause
there,
then your
I'm in and out in
information-
like 10 minutes.
Yeah, because your information's already there.
Yeah.
He probably already has it ready to go to run through Harrisburg, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because he does it
basically.
every time.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of it. And then just to walk through, so in the state of Pennsylvania, which it's crazy because we were just talking about this because we're about to talk about carrying. It's different in each county how to get a carrying license. So
Yes.
for Luzerne County, where we live, I walked into the courthouse. I handed the sheriff a check and the form that I pre-filled out and my license. He went back. 2 minutes later, came back out, grabbed me, took my photo, printed off my license with my information, said it was for self-defense, handed it to me, and sent me on my way. I was in and out in less than 15 minutes to get that, and I actually had my license when I left. In your county, you did the same thing,
Yep.
and you
I
had
had to
to
wait 2 weeks.
You had to wait 2 weeks in the
Yep.
mail to get it.
You know, which
Oh,
county?
no, I had to go back in for it.
Which
Oh,
county?
you had to go back in.
Yeah,
You didn't even get
Columbia
to
County.
Oh, I mean,
So
yeah,
literally
Columbia too.
Yep.
right next to it. So,
Yeah.
which that's right, yeah, Columbia. So you guys are both in that one. But that's how different it is in each county. Not even just state.
And did you have to have the references for yours?
I did have tab 2.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same form. I did have tab 2, which they didn't call.
You're gonna get him in trouble.
Yeah, right. Okay, so permit to purchasing handguns. That's not really something we deal with here, but I'm sure it's in California. They probably have.
If it's a gun law, it's in California. It just says.
If it's a current gun law, it's in California.
Yeah.
So permit to carry, most states require permits to carry handguns. Do some states require for open carry to have the carry, or is it like?
We don't have a permit for open
Because
carry.
if you wanted to purchase a handgun, you can legally open carry that gun right out of the store.
Yeah.
No
Throw it in the
license at
holster.
all. Now, if you want to
Yeah.
conceal it in your coat or something, then you need a license.
Mhm. Well, unless while on your own property, you don't have to.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
in public.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the law with cars?
Unless you're in
Unless-
Walmart.
and inside of a vehicle, if you do not have a permit, the magazine and firearm have to be separated from each other. You can't have them, like magazine, the glove box, pistol in the trunk, whatever it is. If you have your permit, keep it on your hip loaded.
Okay.
Is there like a distance that the ammunition and the
They
magazine?
usually classify it as two separate containers.
Okay,
Because
so if I
inside
have it
your
like
car-
in like if I have like the firearm in like a case and then the ammunition still in the box in a bag over here.
Yeah, that'd be fine, as
then
long
that's
as they're
fine.
separate, because.
They're separate, okay.
Because even if, like, you have a loaded magazine inside the firearm, that's considered loaded.
But what if I have like a loaded magazine next to the firearm in a case?
Inside the same case?
Yeah.
You could possibly
They
get in
might-
trouble.
oh, okay.
It'd be iffy.
Okay,
I
so
wouldn't risk it.
what we're saying is it's complicated.
Yeah.
So that's why when I went to purchase, like I was looking up so many laws, and I remember when I bought my gun, I'm just like, where can I go and where can I not go? Which we're not going to go into, but yeah, it's complicated. Okay, so proposed policies currently right now, there are actually several bills supported by both parties that are on the floor. I don't know if they're on the floor, but they're currently
Sure.
written in the Senate and in the House, kind of combined. And I thought we would just kind of touch upon, but there's over 100 of them that contain the word gun in them. And there's a lot of different debates. So some of them, I was going to read into them more, but you know, we also have
Out
a
of
lot
all those ones in the screen there, the only one I'm a fan of is the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act.
Yeah, so the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, that's the one where I'm actually for that too, and I think a lot of Republicans are for it. And I think everyone should be for it. Basically what it is that, isn't it one license across all state
Yeah,
lines?
your concealed carry permit would be treated as a driver's license, more or less, where every state will accept it.
Okay,
It'd be that way.
yeah. So that I like that.
Mhm.
The bipartisan background check, that's the one where, I have it here somewhere. Okay, so the bipartisan background check would require a background check on most every gun sale or transfer, allowing some exceptions for family. This seems a little odd to me because I feel like this is already kind of in play.
Yeah.
And it's just more nothing in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how like
Most states. Sorry.
like you have to go through that background check with every firearm, right? I mean, I've never bought a shotgun, but I'm pretty sure
It's the exact, that
it's the
form you
same
filled out is
thing.
the same form each time.
So, and that's the thing we're going to go into again with the candidates is that I found so much plagiarism between candidates, and also a lot of stuff that they were saying that's already a law, and I just found it a little strange. But that background check one,
Well, see, also,
Um,
quick note inside there is when you, the gun show, it says there.
I don't know much about gun shows. I
So,
wasn't even
the
doing
gun
that.
show loophole, I'm sure everyone's heard of that.
You sell a gun, you're at a table, and there's no background check. Is that it? I don't
No.
know. Okay, I don't
So,
know.
if you go to if you are in a gun show, if you're participating in it, you're, gun store A, and you're selling these firearms,
Yeah.
you're still representing your business. You have to perform like as if you went into the gun store we went into. It'd be treated the same way at this table. You still have to do the background check. Everything's exactly the same. They talk about the loophole is if you were walking around and you had a firearm on your back.
Okay.
And it's like you had like a piece of paper hanging up and saying for sale, you know, however much money.
Okay.
Because it's a private sale. Like I would come up to you like I'd like to purchase this. You're not a vendor. You're not part of the gun show. You're just a visitor.
Okay, and then someone.
It'd be a private sale
And then,
between
hey,
us.
listen, here's $300, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden I take your gun.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the gun show. That's what people, they don't go into that. It's a private sale.
So you're
when
like
they
a
say-
pop-up online. Like you're just
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
around.
So when they say we want to close the gun show loophole, is you want to get rid of private sales of firearms between
I
the two
feel
parties.
like that's. See, I didn't. I think you've explained that to me before, but
Mhm.
I didn't. I'm just thinking about it. I feel like that could be taken care of with just more management of gun shows.
Yeah, like a lot of gun shows won't let you do that. Like if you come in to sell a product, you have to have like an FFL behind you, and you are gun company A selling
Yeah.
these weapons. I don't have to keep inventory. I'm not that into that part of it.
Mhm.
But as far as somebody walking around a gun show with an AK slung over their back, like I've seen in some documentaries, I've been to a few. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
But
You
that's
can
what
only
that's
get
talking
away
about.
with that if you're Keanu
Okay.
or Nick Cage. 'Cause nobody's gonna mess with Nick Cage with a gun because
He's Clint
he's
Eastwood.
crazy.
So, just glancing through some bills. So this one, assault weapons ban of 2019, probably the most common called for thing by a lot of Democrats named Beto. Which is just pretty much the possession of semi-automatic assault-style weapons. That means I'm talking too much. So rifles, semi-automatic, basically, unless they're grandfathered in from your family member, it looks like that you can't purchase them. So high-capacity magazines as well would be banned. Obviously, Senator Feinstein from California is someone who sponsors this bill.
The devil.
Eric Swalwell, look at this. Look at this fruit. I don't like him.
Well, he said you just nuke us.
Yeah.
What did you just call it?
A fruit. It's my best insult.
Why?
You know
It's
that's the best.
PC culture.
You know, I don't like it as a fruit. All right.
Why did you call him a fruit?
Okay, so keeping guns out of classrooms, that's pretty self-explanatory. Do you guys want to talk about classrooms and guns?
I say we arm the students.
That's right. Put the guns in the shooter's hands.
The only person in a school that is capable of killing someone is the lunch lady.
Might be on something there.
I think I got something there.
Did you watch Dave Chappelle's stand-up Sticks and Stones?
I didn't get around to it.
Oh,
Oh,
you
boy.
need to watch it. You need to watch it right now because it's funny because he makes a joke about how he's like, why are we showing the kids like he's talking about safety drills with kids if there was a live shooter in the school, and then he's like, you're training the shooter, like that kid in the back.
Where we gonna meet up at?
Where do we meet? Okay.
Yeah.
It's an awful joke. Actually, it's a great joke. But
yeah.
okay, so this is one that I think Harris, Biden, and Warren, they touched upon a lot, was like research on gun violence. So they want the Center of Disease Control and Prevention to research more gun deaths, which we do have already a lot of statistics, which I'll pull up on my phone, one of the one that I do have, on gun deaths, gun safety, stuff like that. One real quick, and then we'll move on from this one and go to the Canada. So red flag laws was a big one. If you pay attention to this stuff online, red flag laws. Matt, have you heard a lot about that, or do you know what that one is?
No, I have no idea.
Pretty much it means, so let's say you think that...
So if I'm posting a bunch of crazy, stupid shit on Facebook...
Well, let's make this more realistic. Let's say Tad's posting a bunch of crazy... and you think that
Yes.
something's going to happen. You could report him simply based off of a
No,
whim.
that's stupid.
Just
And-
any markers. you
Oh,
see.
many
do
markers.
you
and then
remember
there could be...
when YouTube did this?
The Hero program.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know this.
It basically
They let the community
they were
regulate
trying to
themselves.
self-regulate themselves, and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty awful.
It was
Like,
bad.
I mean, you get this kind of thing all the time with 911
Swatting.
calls and stuff.
Swatting. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
you get this
that's
shit
most
all the
terrifying
time.
thing I can
Mhm.
think of.
It's like there's a black person outside my apartment.
Yeah.
Call in the National Guard.
Yeah.
No, you can't have this. This is stupid.
Mhm.
That's stupid.
yeah. Yeah. So and then there's so many different bills that's currently being.
I like how you scroll down to the nothing at
To
the
the
end.
nothing and then stop, yeah.
And then you're like, there's so much.
Well, there's 100. I didn't copy all
I
of them.
know.
You want to be here forever?
No.
As long as it takes.
Yeah, so Student Teacher Safety Act, Gun Violence Prevention Research Act, which is the one we talked about, and then the Extreme Risk Protection Orders and Violence Regulations Act. That's red flag.
I was gonna say that sounds like red flags.
That is red flag. They make it fancy. So, okay, so let's jump into some candidates. Now, I read through, I have to say, Biden and Warren, man, they wrote a lot. I couldn't even read some of it because it was just so long and repetitive. They repeated themselves so much. But I grabbed a bunch of stuff, and this is going to be very repetitive between the candidates, which you'll see. But there's a couple interesting stuff here that they're not all the same. I will say that they're not all the same, and some stuff I don't know if I completely disagree with. But real quick, so Biden, hold gun manufacturers accountable, get weapons of war off streets. He's talking about that's very vague.
I mean,
Yeah.
people have held gun makers accountable before.
Yeah.
You know, like the spirits of the damned that haunted Mary Winchester at the Winchester house and caused her to constantly build
More rooms to hide in.
more rooms.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this seriously, but like,
Well, no, it's
it is like
we're constantly being hit with it over
it's
over and over.
we're ending up. The more that things are talked about in the same vein, in the same ways,
in the
especially
same phrases, that same catch
yeah,
grab
especially
phrase. Yeah.
when there are already laws enacted
place, yeah.
in that in what they're saying, it kind of desensitizes
It does.
people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why the jumping board for Democrats should be, here's the laws we have, this is what I want to change about them, not just saying those same points over. Get weapons of war off the streets. You know what, this Beretta was the Army's sidearm for how long?
Just after Vietnam until just recently.
That's a weapon of war.
Yeah.
Okay, stop being vague. Yeah, so you can read some of them there if you want. Background checks for all gun sales. Again, that's already a thing.
Well, if he wants all gun sales, that'd be for private sales as well. what you're
Okay,
talking
okay,
about
so that would be for transfers within
yeah,
family.
so any sale
Is there paperwork for that?
for private sales?
Yes.
If you sell a
Handguns.
handgun,
Yeah.
you get the
So
transfer.
so it's like there's a transfer. So every gun has a written down owner.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That, but it's not kept at a federal level. It's
It's more.
at the
It's
at the FFL will have it on file. So like if it's kind of hard to explain.
well, no. Let's say I want to sell Tad my gun.
Mhm.
I can't just take money from him and give it to him legally. We would have to go to a registered FFL dealer, and we would have to go through that same process if I was buying it from them.
So you go to a gun shop.
Yeah, and-
yes.
yeah.
We'd
You
have-
go to a gun shop. They have the paperwork.
We
You
would do
pay
it
them a
there.
fee.
There'd be a transfer
Fee.
There's a transfer paper. It's a different
Okay.
different article, I believe.
And then I'm sure they charge like what, $5?
It depends on the store. I think
Depends
some
on the
places.
store.
But they don't
$50.
do.
Oh, $50,
That's
okay,
not a
yeah.
background check thing.
No, it is.
I think there's still a background check involved with it. I'm
I
pretty
see.
sure because they still have to cover their own ass, just in case. I think they. I don't know if they're required to. Honestly, I haven't done that before. I haven't looked into it.
And neither have I.
But I know. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Real quick on one of Biden's things, the one thing that I found the most interesting is that when he talks about semi-automatic rifles, which is the most biggest topic with this, is that he says there are two options for people who currently own semi-automatic rifles. One, sell the weapons to the government, so that buyback that we keep hearing, or register them under a National Firearms Act. So his rule is if you want to keep them, there will be a national registrar for the people who own those guns.
Okay.
No, thank you.
So so you're very against that.
Very.
Very against that national registrar saying everyone who has a semi-automatic rifle, you know. But I would say that's probably the most, out of those viewpoints that people are saying, like, you know, Banamali Beto would be the furthest left.
Furthest extreme in that.
Yeah,
that
Biden
spirit,
is
yeah.
kind of bouncing off that and saying, okay, you can still have them, but you need to register.
I mean, I don't see why he wants to end the sale of online sales. of
Yeah, that was
firearms
another
and
thing. He
ammunition.
doesn't want to, so online sales.
Probably
you have to
because
have-
he's afraid of the internet. He's an
Yeah,
old man.
Because it's
He doesn't
handled
know.
the
He
exact
doesn't
same way
understand.
as if you were
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah, because if I was going to buy a gun off there, it still has to be shipped to a gun store.
And like, I just recently purchased some ammunition. I just, put in my information and
I was
They
going
got it.
to, but I went to the store and it was selling a little bit more expensive, but because of the
Walmart.
transfer fees and, all right, so let's jump to Warren. Again, this is a lot of the same stuff. The one different thing that I noticed with hers, and again, you can go on their websites and look at all this for yourself, is that she has an executive order part that starts off her policy page. It says, as soon as I get in, this is what I'm doing. Which is like requiring background checks. Reporting on multiple purchases was another thing that she kept talking about. So she wants to limit how many guns you can purchase within a certain time. Like within a month was like a big one.
You can only use so many guns at once, man.
That's a lie. Okay.
That's why you arm your friends.
We're not all Keanu, okay?
But we could strive to be.
Yeah.
Keanu.
Sponsored by H&K.
Keanu. He's a great character, played by John
Keanu
Wick.
Reeves.
John Wick.
Oh.
John Wick plays Keanu Reeves.
There you
So another one was prohibiting accessories to guns, which
Accessories.
is accessories,
like the dangerous barrel shrouds and bayonet lugs,
suppressors,
shoulder stocks,
Bayonet.
bayonet lug. Yes,
chainsaws.
that's. But yeah, a lot of rifles. Not a lot. There's a good number out there still you can get your hands
Yeah.
on. Not too many modern ones, but like AK-47s is one.
Yes, something
Like-
that I'm truly terrified of.
It's a bayonet.
Somebody putting a freaking bayonet on there.
You're in a
How do you
store
know?
and someone's just charging with a muzzle loader.
I mean, yeah, I'd be scared, but I'd also be really impressed.
Yeah, what was it? I showed a video.
I mean, one thing that I do completely disagree with when it comes to accessories, because I don't think that bump stocks and stuff are going to make a gun suddenly way more deadly.
Of course not, because now they're outlawed.
Like, I don't think that's something that makes much sense.
Right.
People who are like, oh yeah, suppressors should be illegal, that's stupid.
They're very loud still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you still need to wear
it's
hearing
still
protection.
loud.
Yeah.
It's
This-
not.
I think people think of suppressors and silencers,
Because
and
they
they
see
think
movies.
of
Yeah,
James
they see
Bond.
it. They see it on the video games and this and that. Splinter Cell.
It still sounds like me taking like a large metal can and a hammer and going bam.
Yeah.
Like it's still super loud. Like
it
it's
just doesn't sound gun-like anymore.
It doesn't hurt your eardrums.
There's no report because it's not breaking the sound barrier. Number one. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Subsound
I don't
ammunition.
know.
No one's sneaking through Walmart.
No.
I don't know. And before everybody thinks that we're all on just the side of everybody all guns, I do have limits.
Yeah. Well,
Like
just,
I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
do I think you need a rocket launcher? No.
Well, just to go.
No,
well,
I
just
don't
to go
think you need
against,
that.
Just to go against you, Matt.
Do I think you need an Apache helicopter? It'd be badass.
Yes.
But no.
Order
Do
my
I
tank
think
off
that
Amazon.
Arnold Schwarzenegger should have a tank? Yes, and he does.
And only him though.
He does, but he's not allowed
That's
to
why
have
you
the
need a
gun.
rocket launcher
Like
to take out
the
his
gun,
tank.
the barrel is welded shut.
What if Arnold's your neighbor and he turns on you? How are you going to defend yourself? No.
I'm not.
Mines.
I've seen Terminator, man. I don't have a smelting factory anywhere
I've
near
seen
me.
Commando. He can take out an island.
Well, so you can actually own some of those crazy things like grenade launchers and stuff. You fill out the proper paperwork, register as a destructive device or a DD,
Stop attack.
and you can own these things.
Stop attack. It's going to
In,
trend.
in New York, fun thing.
Ban all rocket launchers.
You can actually own a grenade launcher in New York, but you can't have a 10 or 11 round magazine.
Yeah. I just don't care.
Yeah, wrap your head around that
That's too many to have.
I just don't care about bump stocks. I know that was one thing that we were kind of going over to get, like, because I don't care. I don't care about it.
But then
I don't care
again,
about bump stocks either, but it's the fact that you can
It's a
outlaw something.
regulation.
Right.
Yeah.
you know, on the other side of things, I find that these regulations and stuff are going to be more and more difficult to keep in general because mass production equipment
Right.
is more readily available now than it has ever been.
I mean, you can 3D print a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
So,
You can 3D print guns. They don't last for very long.
there's some do that. Like,
But
you can
they-
also 3D print a lower receiver
Oh.
for an AR-15.
Right.
Little tidbit
Which
about
would-
3D printing. Guess, can you guys guess the one candidate that actually talks about it in his policies?
Is the guy for the internet?
Is it Yang?
It's Yang. Of course, it's Yang.
I only knew it was Yang because he had a dopey smile on your face.
Okay, so Bernie's, this is actually his whole policy. If you go to his website, this is it. This
It
is
just
all
says
I
gun
didn't type
safety.
in. So it says gun safety, epidemic, and then a bunch of jargon that we've just
Take
talked
on
about.
NRA and corrupting effect on Washington.
What are straw purchases? Tad, help me
What
out.
the gun show thing.
Oh, okay.
That's
okay,
a straw purchase.
Oh, okay.
A
I
credit
have
sale at
a
gun show.
I have a
Okay.
difficult time with the NRA.
Me too.
It doesn't
I'm
doesn't
gonna
make
move on to
sense that
Camilla
they're
because that's her main. That's her
yeah.
main
It
thing.
doesn't make much sense to me that they're a huge political power. That
I agree.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree. Obviously, it's not like I'm against the NRA because they have fought for. See, this is a very weird table, and I
Yeah.
feel like we need to communicate to everyone how weird it is because it's like I'm a Republican, who I'm okay with the NRA, but I'm not like. I don't think every regulation against firearms is an infringement on my right, and we got a Democrat to my left here who thinks that,
Yes.
and then hates the NRA,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got Matt.
And then we got Matt, who doesn't have a political affiliation and thinks most people should be able to have some form of gun. But I have limits, man.
Even if it's a Nerf gun. Yeah, no, the NRA is. I do think the NRA is too powerful, though. I do like lobbying wise.
And what about when the laser rifles come out? What's gonna happen? Because it's gonna happen. We all know it.
I've seen the Needler on Halo,
And it's the
guided
worst gun.
needlers.
I honestly feel safer if there's a needler in everyone's hand.
See, I thought about Fallout. You get turned into a pile of ashes.
Oh,
Went the other way.
I'm so into that, though.
Laser rifles.
Oh, yeah. Laser musket.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Crank it up.
I've never played Fallout.
I love Fallout.
My favorite Fallout was Fallout 76.
Oof.
I just know that because I know everyone hated on it so much. I have no idea what the.
Apparently, it's pretty good now that they actually, made a
Did
game.
work to it.
Yeah.
So Camilla's is she pretty much is focused on the NRA the whole time. She just doesn't like them. She hates them, and she wants to attack them. And also gun manufacturers. How do we feel? Ted, actually, I don't think I know your. How do you feel about people being able to go after gun manufacturers legally?
No.
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 Okay. Matt's just making sure we're still.
I just wanted to make sure we were still up.
Yeah.
Because, man, it would have sucked if I looked back there and it's just like, oh, this stopped 20 minutes ago.
Oh, that would have sucked.
It's just like, ah,
So
crap.
so no to the whole gun
Yeah, no.
manufacturer.
Definitely not. No support.
Yeah, I don't really understand why we would go after. I mean,
That doesn't make any sense to me.
you
No.
don't think so? Going after gun manufacturers?
Absolutely not.
I
Because a
think
lot of people like to compare
Yeah.
like guns and cars. Like you hear that all the time. Like if we went after Ford for killing people, it's like, well, why are they killing people? Do
well,
they have
unless
parts?
there's
Yeah.
unless there's
Yeah,
a
like,
man
that's different.
manufacturing error.
Now somebody, if there's like people like, oh, I got a Ford, now I gotta run over somebody, then
Yeah, Ford doesn't
It's
get-
not Ford's problem that you got psychos.
Nope.
Well, throwing out one small bone, I would say that the one thing that manufacturers do have a responsibility for is that they understand the market.
Mhm.
And that if they see a spike in sales of certain firearms in a certain area or community, I feel like they have the responsibility to maybe stop or figure out why do we have this spike and what is going on. You know what I mean? Because
That's against capitalism, man.
Yeah.
well, no, I said it's for the private company's responsibility to have, to understand the market and understand, well, why are we selling this certain weapon more over here?
I mean, if it's a legally purchased, well, why should it matter?
True. True. I've heard that argument before, and it sounds reasonable. And I just think it's a checks and balances between the manufacturer and the person selling. But again, that should stay in the
I know,
private.
like after
Yeah.
Beto made a couple of those remarks, lots of gun stores made a lot extra income that month because everybody went to go buy this stuff.
Yeah. Which we're going to come to Beto in a second.
Which
because
seems
there's-
very paranoid because there's no snowball's chance in hell that Beto will ever be president.
Yeah.
I say,
Stand
after
here.
everyone said that couldn't happen about Trump, so...
Who knows?
It's an awfully big hat you might have to eat.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna keep this timestamp. No. So going into Yang,
I know nothing of his
well,
stance actually.
Yang again. All these Democrats kind of they're very similar. The one thing that Yang does, two different things differently, is one, he kind of talks about how this is something that is a part of America's culture and it's a part of our Constitution and it should remain that way. The one thing he adds, which I know both of us are against federally mandated, but I'm not against it as a private responsibility level, which is he believes that there should be a licensing system to purchase and carry firearms with a 5-year renewal requirement. Right now, to carry in Pennsylvania, there's a 4-year renewal, right? Or is it 5?
For the permit?
Yeah, for the
I
carry.
think it's 5.
It's 5, so that's already something in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
For gun ownership, though, not carrying. And in order to do that, to get that license, you have to, this is mandatory, you have to pass a basic hunting and firearm safety class, provide a receipt for an appropriately sized gun locker or trigger locker in your home. And I like how he says tax deductible, which I find very funny. He's like, oh, by the way, we're not going to tax you for that purchase of that gun locker. And then individual states will determine their concealed carry and open carry laws, and reciprocity will not be federally enforced. So that remains the same as it is now, but it's those courses, which I can say all three. Wait, you have not.
No.
I know both of us have taken gun and hunting safety courses
Yes.
when we were younger. Honestly, I enjoyed them, and not that I think I need it, but I would love to take one again just for the heck of it, because I enjoy that
And
type.
see, that's also a weird thing. You're into guns and you want to be more educated on them. You're not afraid of the topic.
Exactly.
Like that's. Like, if
It's
you-
because
yeah.
it's because people who own them and know about them have a certain respect for them and enjoy learning about them. And I know that you are always looking at locally. What's that one organization called? Roll. Is it
Roll call, yeah.
Roll call. So.
Yeah,
tell
they're a
me about
gun
Roll
store.
Call.
They do a lot of different programs, like everything from like basic EMT skills to like home defense, like teach you how like the best course, what you should do, and an event like that, active shooter situations. Like sometimes they bring in like I think FBI like members like teach you what you should do, what can help save you, and
Possible scenarios,
yeah,
stuff like that.
a whole
And that's
course.
really cool.
Yeah.
And I just feel, and I think that's why I wanted to talk about this in such length, is because I feel like if people just know a little bit, and I know it sounds silly, it's like, why do I need to shoot a gun to legislate about guns? It's like, it's just, you develop a certain respect, and it's not something to be afraid of.
Right.
It's just something to...
It's like the first time you hold a katana in your hands.
Exactly.
You're just
That's
like,
exactly what I was going to say.
I feel like a badass.
So motivated right now.
So I would say I'm 100% for that as a choice, but I don't like the federal mandate of
yeah.
that. But the thing is I appreciate the pointing out, I guess. I don't know. But that's one thing that's individual to Yang. Moving along, Buttigieg. Am I still saying that right? Probably not.
No.
Pete.
I'm not sure his name can be pronounced.
So real quick, if you are a Democrat like Tad here and you hate Trump, you can't stand the guy, you don't like him about his gun policies, which real quick, I don't have a slide on Trump because we don't really know his views on firearms.
Oh, he goes back and forth all the
He
time.
is off the wall. Hold on, Tad. So Pete here, if you don't like Trump and you can't stand all these talks of gun laws and stuff, there's your man.
I haven't been interested yet.
He has a lot of the same talking points. He talks about banning assault weapons of high capacity magazines, but that's on his page because that's his whole thing right there. But that's not something that he has actually spoken about. Beto has actually criticized him for not saying we should be doing mandatory buybacks, and he does not believe in that. He still talks about the loophole, whatever a Charleston loophole is, that allows the FBI additional time to complete every background check. I don't even know what that is.
I've never heard of that.
The boyfriend loophole to keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. I think we're all for that. I don't think anyone would be against that. And then the only thing that I would say, Tad, is that he does establish a nationwide gun licensing system. So that is where...
No.
Yeah, so, all right, so there really is no one. But
Yeah.
I would say between him and Sanders, and I would say they're probably the more... I personally, they have...
Gun-friendly
I would say that
candidates.
if, let's say in a world where Pete becomes the nominee, it's not going to happen. I would say he's going to kind of pull back a little bit in general, because he's going to want to grab... Right now, if you don't understand politics and how campaigns are run, you're right now he's trying to win his base, which his base is very anti-gun. Obviously, Democrats, or at least the loudest people are, I guess you could say. When he goes in the general, I have a feeling you're not going to see much of that going forward, but who knows? And then let's talk about Beto, even though who cares? The one thing...
What's a trigger crank?
Gat crank. We talked about it on the last podcast I was on. It's a device
Oh,
that goes
yeah, I
inside and you
remember.
spin it.
Okay, I got it.
Faster.
So Beto, see, if you look at this bar here, all those different topics, that's just his gun policy, all of them together. And I didn't even grab anything
Oh,
from
wait,
the
all
other
of
ones.
these?
All of them.
Okay.
He goes into such detail.
Yeah, but just look at that face. Just look at that face, man.
Oh, and then you saw I got his flu shot the other day. Look at those guns he pulled out.
I just don't want to see his face anymore. Why is he still running?
I'm not going to go into repeating ourselves because again, all these people have the same talking points. But the one thing that he has that I'm actually the most, not say terrified, but so far against, which I know we spoke about this a little bit ago, is he wants to do a mandatory buyback of all semi-automatic rifles. Mandatory confiscation. I hate saying buyback; it's a confiscation.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants to do an optional handgun buyback, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I know that you might say, well, it's optional. I don't even like the idea of it because this is you're literally proving what
people
are
on
saying.
my side have been saying for the longest time.
Is
they
that-
want them all gone.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is you're gonna do this mandatory confiscation of semi-automatic rifles, and then you're going to see no fluctuation in the gun, in gun suicides or anything like that because they are used by these. These are the majority of all acts, whether it's suicide or in schools or whatever. This is the majority. You're not going to see a fluctuation, and then that optional buyback is going to turn into a mandatory buyback, and we're going to become Australia, and I don't want to be Australia.
Nobody wants to be Australia.
They should have guns. You know, kill the wildlife as much.
Yeah, geez, those kangaroos.
Yeah.
I'm not shooting a spider with a handgun. That's not happening.
Yeah, so I want to get Betos.
I mean, maybe the spider's there because they're big.
Yeah,
Shotgun.
shotgun. You want to get a shotgun?
Now I'm just thinking about how terrifying Australia is. See how jacked kangaroos are? They're terrifying. Put up a picture of a jacked kangaroo.
Kangaroo Jack.
Have some more work,
That
Eric.
movie.
He's not even gonna watch this part because this podcast is gonna be too long for even him to watch while he's editing. So he's not gonna put a jacked kangaroo in here.
Yeah, just give me more things to put in.
He's not gonna do that.
But I want to get Beto's face off the board. So that's
He's
all.
still in there.
Oh wait, yeah, he is in my little grouping there. Wait, where's he at?
Oh, they're swallow.
Oh, there he is. Swallow. That's an old one. That's just everyone when they announced the 24 people. So yeah, that's the candidates. I hope you learned something. Final thoughts, I guess. I mean, yeah.
My final thought is you still don't need a rocket launcher. You don't need one.
Every gun law is an infringement.
That's funny.
Lost all my weapons at a boating accident anyway.
That's right. So
I'm
if,
taking away all your guns and I'm replacing them with katanas. We're going to Bushido.
Boogaloo.
Bushido, boogaloo.
he had to explain to me what boogaloo meant. I didn't know what it meant the other day. And it's very funny. And we're not going to explain it here. You'll
No.
figure it out.
Google it. Or don't.
Definitely don't.
Get a red flag.
You're going to
I highly recommend Goat Simulator Electric Boogaloo. It's a good game.
All right.
It's very strange. Also, I couldn't get into Red Dead Redemption 2. The start was too slow for me.
You couldn't get in?
All that snow.
I couldn't get into it. I got too bored with the snow. I own the game. I haven't gotten anywhere with it. I'm sorry, we kind of just went off topic there, but I'm tired. It's way past my bedtime.
It is. What are you talking about? This is the morning, man.
This is easily the latest we've ever done the podcast.
You know, if we
Most of Eric's house is asleep right now,
No, all of Eric's house is asleep right
except for Eric.
now. Or am I?
Is this just a strange
We're
dream
just gonna-
where we do the
What do we
longest
got?
podcast
We
we've
got an
ever
hour
done?
left. Let's keep talking until it's morning.
I'm good with that.
But so I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. Do you think candidates are going to pull back
Yes.
once they get the general?
Mhm.
You think all of them except Beto, which he won't get. But
All right, of the candidates that I think have a chance of scoring it, we've got Warren.
yeah,
We've possibly got Harris.
Biden obviously.
Possibly. Biden. And Bernie might get it, but I doubt it.
You're not giving Yang a chance.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not giving him a chance. I like the guy, don't get me wrong, but
I mean,
like I say about most people on this podcast, I'd have a beer with him. Yang.
yeah. Come on. There's an extra seat here. I mean, Tad, I don't even, who do you even want to vote for? Because you don't, I know you don't like Trump. I mean, we were gonna talk a little bit about Trump's views, because I know he's back and forth. He says things like no due process, and then he comes back with.
Shares Nickelback memes.
I mean, that's amazing.
That was amazing, actually.
Like, where's your mindset going? I don't even know.
I have to find somebody really good and write him in, I guess.
So you're gonna pull a Gary Johnson?
Yeah,
Alright,
it's fine.
I did that.
I almost did that.
I tossed my vote away. I voted for Johnson.
I think it's Harambe, one of those people.
Listen,
Harambe, we have the technology.
Bring him back.
Clone him, bring him back.
my goal in the next year is to convince Tad to vote for Trump, and I feel. Listen, do you mind saying who you voted for in the last state election? What you did?
Last state election?
Yeah, what'd you do?
I voted all red.
So he pulled the red lever for
Yeah.
Wagner, which lost anyway, so it didn't matter. The governor.
Just because of the gun control measures.
Exactly.
Everybody's viewpoints.
So my goal in the next year is to convince Tad to vote for Trump. I feel like I can do it. I'm very persuasive. I don't remember who I voted for. I don't remember if I voted. No.
I did vote. I remember
my
that.
voting booth moved from one church to another. I got a thing in the mail.
Well, because I just moved, I had to switch polling places, so that's going to be different.
Yeah, my polling place moved.
We'll see if I have another trouble voting again this time.
Wait, why was that? Did you have trouble? Oh wait, because you moved, or was
No, I didn't move or anything. I voted in the last election
that's right.
before, and
you
then
lived there for a long time, and
they took me off the list for some reason, and they're like, "Well, you can still fill out this form," and I was just like, "Why am
Because
I
you're
off
not
the
Republican.
list?"
We live in a very high Republican.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not a Democrat.
That's right.
I'm just unassigned. They just don't know which way I'm going to go.
What are you? I'm the Green Party. Jill Stein, 2020.
God, no.
It's going to be interesting. I still think that Trump's, for people who are pro Second Amendment, he's still the best option.
Not so much.
Tad, if you don't,
There are a couple of quotes that Trump has said where he's just like, "I'll take them."
Yeah.
No, I won't. Yes, I will. No, I won't.
They had Feinstein
what was
whispering
it?
in
The
his ear at
first?
that
Well,
one.
no, it was the first year. I think he said something at a cabinet meeting and said something about, people who are being investigated, or it was on the no-fly list, and he said
No-fly,
something
no-buy.
about, we should take away their firearms, then we'll investigate them. And I remember in the background we saw Pence, and I remember he was
Was he
sitting
shaking
there.
his head no?
Pence is just like, like Pence is like, what did you just say? Like,
Right panic.
Yeah.
and I feel, I'll be honest with you, I know for a fact that Trump just says whatever he thinks in the moment, at that time. That's a fact. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And then I feel like behind closed doors, his Republican cabinet is like, listen, here's why you can't say that. And then he'll walk it back, or he'll just ignore that he said it. But he won't say that he was wrong. He'll just won't address it ever
Right.
again. But see, that's my, okay, actually, I'm going to try to persuade you a little bit right now
Oh, okay.
to make this longer, because it's too short.
Is this just pro-Trump podcast
No,
now?
listen.
Like,
Yes,
what's
it is.
going
It's
on?
pro-Trump. The one thing
You know,
I
it
would
took me a
say-
second. I was looking at these, and I was going to throw away the Democrat one, but I was like, wait, which one was that again?
I was thinking that earlier. I'm like, besides the gun,
Is the Democrats the ass or the elephant?
The
The Supreme Court justices that Trump has put in while he's in office are the most pro Second Amendment than any other Democrat would put in. And when it came if it ever comes down to the Supreme Court to infringe upon your Second Amendment rights, you have a better chance
With his
of not
government.
losing them with his Supreme Court that he's put in place in these 3 years that he's been in. This is not a pro-Trump podcast. This is me trying to convince
that
a Democrat.
went well for the bump stocks.
Okay, all right, you got me on that. But here's the thing, though. We're not talking about bump stocks with these Democratic candidates. We're talking about
Everything.
confiscation. We're talking about all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm saying if it ever goes to Supreme Court, that's the way it goes. I know we started this podcast and I said I was going to try to play devil's advocate because we don't have someone.
Yeah, you just ended up doubling down
I suck.
instead.
I suck. I'm awful. Real quick note, though, one thing that I wanted to bring up during this is that for semi-automatic rifles, currently right now in a lot of states, it is legal to open carry them in public. I think it should be illegal. And I remember when I brought that argument to you, Tad, you said, I don't agree, but I'm having a hard time arguing. Because
Yeah.
my thing behind that is, if as a public we can say federally, you can't open carry a semi-automatic rifle. Let's say someone's walking into that Walmart and they're holding that gun. those extra 10, 15 seconds that someone sees that and says, oh my gosh, something bad's going to happen, because that's illegal right off the bat, I'm going to call 911,
Here's the
could
difficult
save
part
lives.
with that, though.
And I think that's why that should be banned.
Here's the
It should
difficult
be
part
used
with
for
that,
private use only.
And I'm not
Yeah.
fully arguing with that
Yeah.
idea, but we've been going over things for a long time now, and if you're still here, thank you.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, before you started doing research into this,
Mhm.
and certainly before I, listened to Tad through the first podcast that we did
Yeah.
with him, and this time, I didn't know half these fucking laws.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. And a lot of times with laws, you can break a law and you don't know
even
you're
know.
breaking one.
Yep.
True.
So because there's so many laws, you could be breaking one at any time. If you fall asleep on a refrigerator in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
that's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is
then-
anyone gonna do anything about it? No, but
Yeah.
like if somebody walks in with a semi-automatic rifle into Walmart and that happens to be illegal, sure, a lot of people will get the hint immediately, like, yeah, maybe it's time to skedaddle. Like maybe I don't need the Oreos today,
Yeah.
but
Right.
like there will also be people who are just like, yeah, that seems right.
I mean, we'll
Well,
also.
I think that would happen now I think you're thinking more so in our area, but and also in like El Paso and Dayton, that is something that might be common or might be okay because people are more comfortable around those things because they grew up with good firearms.
Mhm.
But I think that's why I would say federally mandating stuff, which I know is a huge thing that people don't like.
Are you a fan of giving away freedoms for safety?
See, it is.
Mm.
But to go back on Matt's point though, if we have these universal laws instead of laws that differ by county or by state, and it's more universally known,
Mhm.
it could be safer just for the fact of response time. Those rifles, you can't really conceal them, especially the one on El Paso, I think had a drum magazine in it.
I don't know if it had a drum magazine,
Who
but it
would-
was a Wasser 10,
Okay,
which is an AK-47.
was it 30 or
At the very, well, you can get 10 round mag, but I think he had a 30 in it.
a 30 in it? So those
Which
are
is
not
standard.
things that you can conceal easily,
Mhm.
and if that's something that's mandated, I still think you should be able to own them without licensing. I still think you should be able to use them for shooting ranges or for sport or on someone else's property if they allow it on private property, but it should be completely outlawed in public. And I think that's something that, if known, could change a lot, at least with response time and people calling for help. I don't know.
Sure. Sure, I'm not arguing.
That's
that
the
point.
most pro-gun control that's
I mean, sometimes I just like arguing
I
with
mean,
you
then
there.
you can also.
That's fine,
like,
let's do it.
People can have AR-15 pistols or AK-47 pistols or, whatever variety you
I
want.
know there's a lot
With the
of
stabilizing
variations.
braces, it looks just like a rifle, but if you don't know, like all the little laws you were talking about,
There's collapsing stocks, which are braces, correct?
there's braces that are also, that can be collapsible.
That's the part that goes here. And,
Not a brace.
Oh,
Stock.
shut
It's a stock, it's illegal
all right,
on a pistol,
okay.
ATF.
And the thing that differs from a pistol to a rifle is the
Barrel
magazine.
length.
Barreling, not where the magazine goes?
Well, it depends.
This is how complicated.
Yes.
All right, and now here's our comprehensive list of Tad's favorite guns,
How much time do we got?
Yeah.
from 1 to 637.
We're gonna break it down by the decade, okay? 1990, no.
The Tech 9. 2 rounds and jam.
Tech 9. It's not a good gun
No.
or a good musical artist. There, I said it. Screw you, Tech 9.
Controversy.
You know what? Macklemore, screw you too. I know you don't sound like a gun. Machine Gun Kelly,
was just gonna
I'm
bring-
coming at you.
Machine gun kill. You need a tax stamp. No. Jeez.
It went off the rails again.
I'm just trying to think of things that I could try to be more opposite end of, and I'm having a hard time.
It's because you're informed of all of it.
I think
it
that's
seriously
the
comes down
problem.
to a lot of that. Like,
Is
if you were
being
more
informed.
informed, then you understand. It's hard to, yell
Yeah.
from the outside, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not for like arming teachers and stuff. Let's be real here. But I do think,
am.
I I think there should be armed security in public schools. I think that should be
The way I look at that is,
complete-
how come you're telling a United States citizen that you're not allowed to defend yourself?
I see that as a point, but I think that when it becomes on a school premise with children,
I mean,
think
there are
that-
gun-free zones, but like if you were to make, you know, if you were to say you have
Oh,
to.
and that's a
for-
load of crap.
if you were-
Gun-free zones. I was so. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying, like, if you wanted to say, like, for a teacher to be able to conceal carry a firearm, you know,
Mhm.
either if they want to lock it up in their desk, I'm not a fan of having off-the-body carry at all.
Yeah.
If you want to have a firearm concealed on you, if you want to make it so you have to have, you know, like different classes and courses, so you can prove you're proficient with it, because certain
Yeah.
states already do that for just concealed in general. I would be okay with that if that was the way to get people to, because only the people who want to carry are going to do it. It's not going to be like, we're just going to give a box of chalk and a Glock. Like, it's
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
You should think it should be a choice, and then
Yeah,
if that's
it's
the
a
case,
choice,
then there are.
And if you want to make it a
Yeah.
little bit more difficult.
I mean, I think I side a little more with Eric on this side, but that is like that's a whole nother trap shoot, especially with public schools,
Mhm.
considering funding and stuff. That's a whole
That's true,
other
because
topic.
where's that funding coming from?
Yeah.
And I used to side with you, but honestly, I would say that as I just think it should be, if there is a person where their job, like, you know, private companies, you know, their job is to defend the school or to patrol or security, and they're trained in that firearm and in those situations, I don't think, you know, that should be something for the teachers. I understand you would think it should be the option
I
for
mean,
it.
that's
Right.
economics 101. Specialization leads to surplus.
Mhm.
So if you
And
have
it
one
creates jobs.
person doing a job, one, that's going to stimulate the economy, that's great.
Mhm.
And two, they're going to be the best at it.
I'm
Right.
sure there's some veterans out there that would love to take that job.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm certain.
But gun-free zones annoy me, and I'm not going to say where we went, but me and my
Walmart?
family. No, it
Was it Walmart?
I always carry in Walmart. That's never not going to happen again.
Me too.
I was going somewhere with my family, and I was reading online before we went down because I was curious, and they said it's a gun-free zone, no carrying whatsoever. And I've been there. I haven't been there that recently, but I have been in certain places around there that I'm like, okay, well, they're probably going to have like. Oh wait, on the website it says they were going to use metal detectors in this certain area. So I'm like, okay, so I brought my gun with me, but I brought a lock and I locked it in my car under the seat and stuff because I'm like, okay, well I can't carry it in. So as we're walking in, there was like no checks. They barely checked in my wife's purse. Okay, I easily could have brought that gun in there, no problem whatsoever, which annoys me because if you are going to say something is a gun-free zone, you need to, then you are responsible for the security of that area.
That's
For
like
example,
going to,
a concert, like a concert.
Yeah, that's like going to a concert.
You can't bring something in there unless you're like, I don't know, freaking stealth.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they check
Underwear
everything.
gun.
I mean, I've been like, you know, it's like going into an airport.
I don't know what concerts you're going through, man.
What arena? Well, okay, not clubs and stuff, but like.
No, I just
I've been
went
to
up to
a couple
one
outdoor
and
ones where you just
Well,
leave
actually,
it
I went to a
free to go
nightclub
inside.
recently, and I did the same thing that I just said now. And the nightclub had a stick, a wand, or whatever, and
Yeah.
he did the same
Yeah.
thing to me. So if he would have easily caught me with it, and that was just a simple nightclub, like it wasn't even that big. So that I'm fine with that. It's just you have to be responsible if you're going to declare a gun-free zone. I hate the places that say gun-free zone and then they do nothing about it, like where I went to this summer, and that really
Right.
annoyed me because I easily could have concealed, and you know it wouldn't have been an issue.
Right.
a gun-free zone. That's where the guns are free.
Do you know this place?
Yeah, where can we go? Road trip.
Yeah.
So I don't like them, and the fact that political candidates, I think Elizabeth Warren said we need more gun-free zones. I'm like, what is that?
She
do?
says behind her
What
armed
does that
security
do? Yeah, I know. Isn't that like,
That
oh, you don't
gets
need
me.
that gun as I have my armed guards
with
follow
fully
me.
automatic weapons
Yeah.
that you can only dream of touching.
Who was the one I can't believe it. Kim Kardashian said something which. The fact that she can talk, but she said, "Why would you need that?" As she has her armed guards
Yeah.
walking around her at all times, like, must be nice.
Yeah, it being such a place where you can't, accept.
Well, I
that
think
other
that she
people are
got like
dangerous. She got robbed.
She got robbed once.
Whatever country she was in.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
it
sure
broke
she
into,
did.
like,
Her clothes are probably all of her
Yeah,
belongings.
she got like robbed of
probably
I think a
cost,
few million in jewelry or something
Mhm.
like that. Like,
which
she
was
got
probably
nailed.
one ring. I mean,
Yeah. But I mean, if I were her, I'd have security.
Oh no, I'm not saying don't have security. I'm just saying the fact that you criticize normal citizens
For taking the responsibility.
to protect themselves while you have protection because you have the money to hire someone.
Well,
It's
people who are
hypocritical, and
people
they're
who
also-
are at that level
Yeah.
just
You say that they-
automatically
yeah.
say that they are, like, in their heads, they're better than everybody else.
Yeah.
There's a
There's
big
not a
disconnect.
And that's
single
why I don't like
millionaire
actors,
out
yeah.
there who doesn't think that they're better than
Right.
the common person.
There's just a huge disconnect with, obviously celebrities and career
Absolutely.
politicians.
And that's why
that-
I propose here on the Morning Ramble, the most popular podcast that is
Has
filmed
the
out
word
of the
morning.
Shikshinny area.
It's a fact.
That is a fact.
It's a fact.
Don't start a podcast in Shikshinny, please. This is
Please.
all we got. That we cut all of Congress's pay in half until they go through every law that exists now and start cutting them. Because if they're going to keep making new laws, I can't keep up with the thousands of laws that they have.
Right.
Hey, term limits, AOC.
Do
cruise.
your job. Your job. Do it.
I'm all for term limits.
Anyway, this podcast has gone too far.
I don't know how long
Too
we've
long.
gone.
It is, well, about an hour and a half, roughly.
Okay, cool.
So,
I think it was more productive.
it was
productive,
very productive.
informal. I hope you
Uh,
learned something, because I learned something.
I learned a lot. That guns are
Tools.
okay.
Guns are people too.
If you want to learn more about guns, I'm willing to teach you. All that I
Guns
know.
don't kill people until the aliens come.
People don't kill people. Guns kill people. I mean, no. Guns.
Guns are bad. Are they? I don't know, man.
They're.
It's a complicated topic, okay?
If you learn anything, if you want to take away one thing, guns are drugs.
They're very expensive.
I mean, it's true. Just guns are drugs.
They're
a drug
addictive.
habit would be
Look
cheaper.
at him.
Yes.
Look at him.
I'm pretty sure a drug habit would be cheaper.
This is the face of guns.
Getting flagged all over.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Wait, we need to throw some keywords in for the YouTube.
High capacity magazine, I'm sure that's one.
Bombs. No.
Just, that's just the name of the podcast.
I was actually about
Bombs.
to list a bunch of stuff together really bad, but I'm not going to.
How to get demonetized ASMR style.
Alright, I think we can end it there. We'll do this again.
We'll do this again in a year.
We're on ASMR style. Hold on.
Shh, shh. It's all gonna be okay. This is what you get for robbing my house.
Okay, even our laptop, the batteries are
Oh,
running
boy.
low. We're done. We're done.
Good night.
See you guys.
Good morning.